In 1979, revolutionaries stormed the American embassy in Tehran, taking 52 hostages and shattering a decades-old alliance. What replaced it was not peace. Instead, it was proxy armies, nuclear brinkmanship, and a web of mistrust that binds the United States, Israel, and Iran into one of the most dangerous rivalries on Earth. Today, a single miscalculation could spiral this into a regional war. The chain of events that could lead there has already begun. The rupture in 1979 did not just end a diplomatic relationship. It set the stage for a new kind of confrontation. After the embassy takeover, the new Iranian leadership, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, declared the United States an enemy and set out to export its revolution across the region. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, was founded that same year, designed to shield the regime at home and extend its reach abroad. Within months, the IRGC began organizing and supporting groups willing to challenge Western and Israeli interests, laying the groundwork for a strategy that relied on proxies instead of direct confrontation. The Iran and Iraq War, which erupted in 1980, forced Tehran to adapt quickly. Facing a larger, better-equipped Iraqi army backed by both the United States and the Soviet Union, Iran could not match its adversaries in open battle. Instead, it turned to unconventional tactics, supporting militias, deploying guerrilla fighters, and launching cross-border raids. The war dragged on for 8 years, leaving more than 500,000 dead and millions wounded. These losses convinced Iranian leaders that indirect warfare, using proxies and asymmetric operations, was the only way to survive and influence the region. By the late 1980s, the IRGC's External Operations Wing began to formalize. This unit, later known as the Quds Force, would become the architect of Iran's regional network. In Lebanon, IRGC advisors helped create Hezbollah, a group that would grow into a formidable force on Israel's northern border. The pattern was set. Iran would project power not through direct confrontation, but by cultivating loyal armed groups across the Middle East. This strategy, born from necessity and hardened by war, would define Iran's approach to both Israel and the United States for decades to come. Expert soundbite. The revolution fundamentally changed Iran's security doctrine. Proxy warfare became not just a tool, but the backbone of Tehran's foreign policy. On July 14, 2015, diplomats from Iran, the United States, and 5 other world powers signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, better known as the Iran nuclear deal. For the first time in decades, Tehran agreed to strict limits on uranium enrichment, caps on centrifuge numbers, and intrusive inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency. In exchange, the international community lifted key economic sanctions, unlocking billions in frozen assets and opening channels for oil exports. The agreement's text, more than 100 pages long, spelled out enrichment thresholds, timelines for dismantling equipment, and a verification regime designed to catch any breach within days. Supporters argued that the deal bought time, rolling back Iran's nuclear clock and creating space for diplomacy. Critics, most vocally in Israel and among some U.S. lawmakers, warned that the deal left loopholes and would eventually allow Iran to resume sensitive work once sunset clauses expired. For nearly 3 years, the deal held. The International Atomic Energy Agency issued regular reports confirming Iran's compliance, even as regional tensions simmered. But on May 8, 2018, the balance shattered. President Donald Trump announced the United States would withdraw from the agreement, signing an executive order that reinstated sweeping sanctions on Iran's banking, energy, and shipping sectors. The White House statement accused Tehran of deception and regional aggression, declaring that the agreement had failed to prevent a path to nuclear weapons. Within weeks, European companies began pulling out of Iranian markets, and the real collapsed to historic lows. Tehran, facing renewed economic isolation, warned that it would reduce its own commitments if relief did not return. The collapse of the deal reignited old suspicions, fueling a new cycle of pressure, mistrust, and brinkmanship. As the last diplomats left Vienna, the nuclear file once again became the flashpoint at the heart of the rivalry between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Iran's nuclear posture is less about weapons and more about bargaining power. A single misstep by Washington or Jerusalem can trigger a cascade of asymmetric retaliation that pulls the whole region toward war. On April 9, 2018, Israeli fighter jets struck the T-4 airbase near Homs in Syria, destroying Iranian air defense systems and killing several IRGC personnel. The operation targeted what Israeli intelligence identified as a logistics hub for Iranian drone activity, sending a clear message that weapons transfers and Iranian entrenchment close to Israel's borders would not go unanswered. Tehran's response was swift but measured, vowing retribution while quietly reinforcing its positions across Syria. Just over a year later, on December 28, 2019, a barrage of rockets hit the K-1 military base near Habbaniyah in Iraq. The attack killed 2 Iraqi soldiers, wounded 12 others, and left a U.S. contractor dead. Kataib Hezbollah, an Iranian-backed militia, claimed responsibility. Within 48 hours, the United States launched airstrikes on militia command sites in Iraq and Syria, killing at least 25 fighters. Satellite images released by the Pentagon showed the aftermath, burned-out compounds and craters where buildings once stood. The tit-for-tat logic was unmistakable. A strike on U.S. personnel would trigger a direct and overwhelming response. The pattern escalated dramatically on January 3, 2020, when a U.S. drone targeted and killed Qasem Soleimani, the architect of Iran's regional operations, as his convoy left Baghdad airport. 5 days later, Iran fired more than 70 ballistic missiles at Al-Assad Air Base and Erbil International Airport in Iraq. The attack wounded U.S. troops and caused significant damage, but stopped short of killing Americans. A calculated move that signaled both resolve and restraint. Each incident, from air-base bombings to missile barrages, reinforced a cycle. Any strike risks immediate reprisal, and every retaliation redraws the boundaries of what is acceptable. In this environment, a single misjudgment could ignite a chain reaction far beyond the initial battlefield. In the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz, a single tanker can become a flashpoint. On May 4, 2019, the Grace One, flagged by the United Arab Emirates, was seized by Iranian forces just 12 nautical miles from international shipping lanes. Iranian patrol boats boarded the vessel, citing violations of sanctions, and redirected it toward Iranian waters. Within a day, British Royal Marines intervened, reclaiming the ship after a tense standoff. The incident sent insurance rates for Gulf shipping soaring and forced global oil traders to calculate the risks of a sudden maritime blockade. Lloyd's List recorded a spike in vessel rerouting, with commercial tankers shadowed by warships and drone surveillance. These maritime confrontations revealed how easily a local seizure could draw in outside navies and threaten the flow of nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply. On a different front, invisible battles have played out inside server rooms and control centers. In 2010, cybersecurity analysts at Symantec uncovered Stuxnet, a digital worm that had burrowed deep into Iran's Natanz nuclear facility. The code, later traced to joint U.S. and Israeli efforts, targeted centrifuge controllers, causing nearly 1,000 units to spin out of control and break apart. The sabotage set back Iran's enrichment program without a single missile fired. But cyber warfare would not remain a one-off. In April 2021, a sudden explosion at Natanz again crippled centrifuge halls. The IAEA confirmed a major power outage and physical damage, while Iranian officials blamed foreign cyber-physical attacks. Each incident underscored a new reality. In the maritime and cyber domains, attribution is murky, escalation is rapid, and the consequences can ripple far beyond the original target. Hezbollah's arsenal now exceeds 150,000 rockets, many capable of reaching deep into Israeli territory. In Lebanon, the sound of rocket launches is no longer distant. A Lebanese father describes sheltering his children as sirens wail, uncertain if the next barrage will reach their neighborhood. Across the border in Iraq, the Popular Mobilization Forces operate within sight of U.S. bases, launching drones and short-range missiles from sites often hidden among civilian homes. An Iraqi mother living near a district controlled by the Popular Mobilization Forces in Baghdad speaks of the constant anxiety. She says, "We hear the drones at night and wonder if our street will be next." The Houthis in Yemen, equipped with Iranian-supplied anti-ship missiles and drones, have struck vessels in the Red Sea, threatening global shipping lanes. Each of these groups acts as both a tripwire and a lever, able to escalate violence far beyond their borders. Yet alongside these accelerants, quiet mediation channels persist. Qatar and Oman maintain discreet hotlines to Tehran and its allies, relaying messages that have, on occasion, paused barrages or opened corridors for humanitarian aid. The presence of these diplomatic breaks stands in stark contrast to the speed at which proxy attacks can draw outside powers into direct confrontation. Israel's missile defense network is among the most advanced in the world. 3 layers protect cities and bases: Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow. But every system has its limits. Iron Dome, with a reported intercept rate near 90%, can handle dozens of rockets at once. Yet Hezbollah's arsenal now numbers 150,000 rockets, and Iran's Revolutionary Guard controls hundreds of ballistic missiles, including the Fateh 110 and Shahab 3. If thousands of projectiles are launched in a coordinated wave, the sheer volume threatens to overwhelm interceptors. The Israeli Air Force operates around 30 F-35 Adair stealth fighters, offering deep strike capability, but these jets cannot be everywhere at once. According to estimates from the International Institute for Strategic Studies, Israel's total interceptor stockpile, spread across all 3 tiers, could be depleted within days of sustained mass salvos. A former military planner puts it bluntly: no defense is infinite. With enough missiles in the air, something gets through. In such a scenario, escalation control becomes a technical race between offensive volume and defensive capacity, with no guarantee that technology alone can prevent disaster. A single strike can unlock a chain reaction with little warning. In one scenario, Israeli jets target an Iranian weapons convoy near the Syrian and Iraqi border. Hezbollah responds within hours, launching thousands of rockets toward northern Israel and overwhelming missile defenses. U.S. forces, citing the need to protect their personnel, strike a militia depot in Iraq. Iran answers with ballistic missiles aimed at Israeli bases, and with cyber teams crippling oil infrastructure, each step pulling more actors into the spiral. In the Gulf, a swarm of Iranian fast attack boats closes in on a U.S. carrier group. The American response sinks several vessels. Debris and confusion trigger a ballistic missile launch from Iran. Israel, fearing a wider naval threat, strikes an Iranian offshore platform. Tehran declares a state of war. In the cyber realm, a coordinated attack disables oil export terminals, halting hundreds of thousands of barrels per day. Accusations fly between Tehran and Jerusalem, while the U.S. imposes new sanctions and Iran retaliates with missiles at sea. In each pathway, a single miscalculation or ambiguous signal turns a local clash into a regional conflagration, with no clear off-ramp in sight. Today, a single miscalculation in this volatile triangle could ignite a conflict with consequences far beyond the region. As advanced weapons and proxy networks proliferate, the margin for error shrinks. In the Middle East, Escalation is always one decision away, and the world is watching.